Okay, I just hit go live.
Joe, that's good for once in a while. Joe, where do you go? Does he want a water? You want, Joe, I've got water right here.
It's still down there. I didn't open that up yet. Should I close the other one? We're on camera, just so everybody knows. Leave them both on, right?
Hey, John, how are you?
Because I got a picture with both of them.
Good. Not too bad.
Okay.
A lot of no-shows today.
And then this one says go live too, Brian. Click on the one I just opened up and go live there. Now it must be streaming because it has a place that says stop streaming.
Just so you know.
Okay, I'm going to look on my computer too.
How's everything with you? Yeah? What? Doing better? 2 weeks. Thanks. Your wife doing better?
Yes, yes.
Okay, God.
They got it.
Oh, my God. Good. Oh,
Like,
that's like,
never looking at.
Just so you know, we are live streaming. It's already started. I mean, we'll start the meeting, but
Yeah.
you guys are our.
that's how it
are our-
goes, right?
Brian, I really appreciate it.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, I'll talk to you later. Thanks a lot. I'm going to give you a call later. Okay, bye-bye. Hey, Joe. Good, good. You got all your stuff, right? You want a pop or something, or a gator?
You're over there. Oh,
Don't breathe on this thing. Don't move. Don't.
Yeah, yeah.
We,
Sneeze.
our council meetings, our COW meetings, you know, we're got a new camera and everything seems to be going well, but each time it seems like somebody bumps something or does something, and so we're getting it all straightened. They're gonna rewire it and everything, but they want to make sure it was the camera, not the program. Not ready for this cold weather, boy. It's cold out there.
It's wicked tonight.
turned quick.
Oh my God.
My wife.
Gorgeous to nasty in a hurry.
Oh my.
How you been? All right, things are moving quick up there. Good job. Yes, sir.
I better get my glasses. I know what anything that's going. Good. Robert, Joe, if you want to sit at the dais, it doesn't matter to me. I just put your stuff down there because I know you guys. I usually put you up here, then you guys go down there and. We can't function. You know, I'll tell you, Joe, D'Amico will relate to this, but I was gonna say Rob's tall. Just he's looking, he's probably as tall as me, but sitting down there. There was a gentleman that actually passed Jim Begay, Joyce's husband. He was like 6'7" or whatever, 6'8", and he'd always pull with the kids, you know. And our kids were little at the time. The kids loved him because he was like a big, gentle giant, you know. He had no kids. He'd always pull with the kids. And I'll never forget, he sat down the one day. My daughter was probably like 6 or 7. She goes, "Mr. Begin, you're tall even sitting down." And it was just so cute. He got the biggest kick out. He loved the kids. Remember, Joe? He just loved the. He was a big guy. Played college football, I think, too, for a Division II college, you know, and was probably the gentlest guy you ever meet. But I wouldn't want to get him mad. He was what, 6'7", 6'8"?
Something like that, yeah.
Remember, Rob? He was quite a bit taller than you too, right?
Yeah, I thought.
Yeah, he was just the,
You guys were scared.
Hi, George. Good, how are you?
hey, George,
All right.
good, how are you? Anybody wants a water, I can get more. Matt, if you want one, Fred, the other gentleman in the back there, if you like, okay. Or if you want a pop, Janice, or you want a pop or something?
No, this is good.
Okay.
Perfect.
We have been streaming all our meetings. You can get them off our website, or you can get them off of YouTube. So we are streaming this meeting too. Some haven't been as successful as others. Some have just have voices and no visual, and some have had visual and no voices. So what's that? Yeah. But we're getting it, this is, we're getting better. You know, what happened is, like anything, we started doing that during COVID, and once you start streaming, you can't go back, because
Right.
people like it. You can watch the meeting at home, you can watch it 2 days later, you can watch it while you're, eating, you could.
It's amazing what we were able to do when we thought that it couldn't be done.
Exactly,
You know?
Janice, yeah. I expect Ray to be here.
I didn't either.
I didn't hear from Ray, so I expect Ray to be here.
See? I know,
Makes my life a lot easier.
I know.
Yeah, no, I know, we got time, so,
Yeah, I didn't think it was possible. We're doing our phone hearings at work too.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
yeah, he responded that he'll be here, so we should have the complete commission. Oh my gosh, they're getting so big, Joe. I mean, John. Yeah, they're getting big. Oh my gosh.
How old?
They're like 10 months. They're starting to walk a little bit, and,
Pulling
Pauline.
themselves up.
Oh, yeah.
That's so sweet.
Oh my
That's
God,
really
it's a
sweet.
riot. It's so different, because it's funny how, they've been together since, and they don't fight over too many things, like if one grabs it, they'll give in, or like, it's just so funny looking at pictures today. Nikki, when she takes them to the store, they're next to each other hey Ray, they're next to each other in the cart, touching each other. So they're all, I guess,
That's interesting.
you get raised that way, and
Yeah.
that's why they're so close. They're like, they are constantly together, just because that's what a mother or a father has to do. I mean, they're, like, I was just looking at that, they're in the cart and they're right next to each, one's looking this way and one's looking the other way, and they're touching each other, not fighting,
Oh,
they're used to that.
oh.
Now, that doesn't mean it's gonna stay that way, but,
I don't know, it's like when they're born over a year apart, though, they get very competitive. So maybe
Yeah.
when they're together, it's a much different story.
yeah.
Interesting.
Now, if one sees, it's so funny, like, if one sees the other twin doing something, and she comes over, or vice versa, neither one of them wanna miss anything, So, Ray, we are live streaming, we seem to be doing well. No one's over there to breathe on it. I'm gonna close this door. We'll be able to, everybody's good, we can start. Is everybody good? Ready to go? We're good. Okay. Good evening, everybody. I'd like to welcome everybody to the Village of Walton Hills Planning Commission meeting of November 17th, 2022 at 7:01 PM. Second order of business is pledge allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you, everybody. Roll call. Joe D'Amico?
Here.
Todd Toez? Here. Janice St. John?
Here,
Raymond Whedon? Here. Okay. All of the planning commission present, along with our law director, John Montello, our street commissioner, zoning inspector, Rob Kalman, our village engineer, Joe Gelati, our planner, George Smarigan. Okay. I was expecting Tom Jordan to be here tonight, so he might be a little late, but I think we're good. Item 4, I'd like to ask for approval of the minutes from August 4th, 2022, from that planning commission meeting.
Mayor, I'd like to move to approve the minutes from the August 4th, 2022 Planning Commission meeting.
Second by Mr. Whedon. Vote on the motion. Joe D'Amico.
Yes.
Todd Toez.
Yes.
Janice St. John.
Yes,
Raymond Whedon.
Yes.
Mayor Don Colograph. Yes. Okay, minutes approved. Thank you, everybody. Any old business for the committee? Okay. New business, we have, well, first I'll back off a little bit. We are live streaming, just like to welcome any residents or non-residents that are also watching our planning commission meeting tonight too. Okay. New business, item A is 022-08-7620. It's, well, the item is 022-08. The address is 7620 and 7676 Northfield Road. There's a lot consolidation and building addition on this item. Sir, if you can just introduce yourself. Yeah, come on up. And then just tell us why you're in front of the commission tonight. Planning Committee.
Yeah, good evening. My name is Joe Moore. I'm here representing Smith and Obie. My name is Joe Moore. I'm with AODK Architects in Lakewood, Ohio. Smith and Obie is requesting approval tonight for a proposed lot consolidation and requesting approval for a 8,000 square foot office building addition to their facility at 7676 Northfield Road. The proposed addition is at the corner of Northfield Road and Alexander, yeah. And the proposed addition is 1-story with brick veneer siding at the front entry and vertical metal siding at the connection element and office wing of the addition. It's in a Zoom call today, and the owner feels the proposed addition complements the existing Smith and Obie facility and improves the character of the intersection and the city. I suspect you all have our design packages. I have enlargements here, but I don't have an easel.
Yes, we do. We got the, go ahead, Rob. Yeah, if you want to get something that would help. I'm sorry, what was your first name?
Joe.
Okay, Joe. Okay. Yeah, Rob will get you some. Yeah, the commission does have, everybody has a set of plans that they were given. So Joe, is that the same as what we have here?
Yeah, it is.
Okay,
It's just enlarged.
okay. Joe, do you have any other comments, or we're gonna have stuff for you, but did you want to, you were, okay.
Yeah, I'm good.
I lost my little cheat sheet, Joe, but, but, I do, in our packet here, we do have our, letters from, of course, our zoning inspector, street commissioner, Mr. Kalman, our village engineer, Joe Gelati, and our planner, George Smarigan, are all in, should all be in your packet there. I'm not going to read, there's, with all three of them here, I'm not going to read them in the record. I'll just be known that there is a submission here from Mr. Smarigan, Mr. Kalman, and our village engineer, Mr. Gelati. At this time, maybe I'll start with having each one of you give. Yeah, would you like to do, who would like to go first here? It's. Yeah, Joe, you do have these too, you should have these. Okay, yeah, just wanted to make that known, good thing there that, of course, Smith and Obie did receive our team's comments and recommendations. Go ahead, Joe, if you want to. Of course. Just push Joe out of the way there. And
Yes. Hi, everybody. I'll just summarize my memo for the commission. I'm sure you guys have already seen it and read it. I broke it into actually two memos, one for the lot consolidation that Smith and Obie is proposing, and one for the site plan itself. The lot consolidation is pretty straightforward. Really, I would recommend that the commission approve the lot consolidation here this evening, and any of the fine details we can work out administratively between myself and their surveyor in order to get it ready for the mayor and myself to sign. As far as the site plan is concerned, that's my second memo. The only comment that's substantial in any way is the first one regarding stormwater management. The plan that's been submitted does not actually show any stormwater management on the site, detention pond, below ground, or anything. So that is required by code. So I would suggest that the commission could grant approval this evening with that condition that they provide stormwater management, which of course we'll review with their design engineer.
And Mr. Gelati, you're and Rob, you guys are comfortable with that? Of course, yes. That's your recommendation. Yeah. Joe, any other comments? Anything related to the proposed building addition besides what you have here?
The structure itself, I'll let George or Rob speak to that.
Okay. Any questions for Joe on? Why don't we get? What do you think? I think we probably should get through the lot consolidation, which we did. I think, Joe, you're the only one commenting on really on the lot consolidation, correct?
Likely so, I think.
I recommended approval of lot consolidation, so you're cleaning up non-conformity on the corner, it just makes sense. But I recommended, point one, I recommended it as well. For the proposed expansion.
Okay. All right, then, any questions for the committee relating to the lot consolidation for our team or for their representative? John, you have any legal thing? We're good on that? Yeah, that's. Okay. George, did you want to just kind of go over your, yes.
Absolutely, Mayor. The building addition meets with the setback requirements. It is consistent in terms of the overall design of the site. They have land bank parking, which the code permits, and so with that land bank parking, they are in compliance in terms of the parking requirements. The only issue that I raised in my report had to do with the building facade. They are proposing a combination of brick and the vertical metal siding. As you are aware, in this district, the code says that it has to be brick or masonry, and any material other than brick and masonry has to be approved specifically by the commission. While I understand that they do have vertical siding on the other portions of the building, I think the difference here is that that's in the back. This is right up in front at the corner. This is highly visible. This is like, basically the corner of Main and Main here. And I think that the treatment of that facade probably warrants additional masonry as opposed to the amount of metal vertical siding that they have. So my only recommendation would be that we make that adjustment to increase the amount of masonry on the proposed addition. But other than that, it complies with code, and with that one stipulation, I'm recommending that you grant approval subject to that comment.
Any questions for George or? And Joe, if you want to comment on anything at any time, go ahead. I mean, that's what we,
Just, the stormwater retention will be part of this package. Not a problem.
okay. Rob, did you want to, we'll keep going through. Comment on any comments you have, Rob. We did, as said earlier, in our, what's into the record, we do have a written comment from all our members.
As I covered in my review, as you have a copy, the final submission for construction should include landscape plan as well as photometric plan to be reviewed. That can be reviewed and approved administratively. I did also, parking, as George said, as I said in mine, it's appropriate. They show land bank for what they're doing. It's appropriate and should be approved. And then proposed exterior finish. We have vertical siding. Driving east on Alexander Road, you're going to catch a substantial amount of it from the backside of that building. The code is clear. Proposed exterior finish material includes vertical metal siding. It says in the mixed-use development district, all exterior wall areas of each elevation of any building or other structure erected, or the expansion of an existing building or other structures shall be constructed of brick, split face block, or other such material as approved by planning. The larger areas of vertical siding on the existing building aren't really much office. The office area of the existing building up front is all brick. It would be my recommendation. My recommendation would be to require brick on the expansion. It's planning's approval. They can approve other material, but that's my recommendation.
Any other comments? Rob, you're good with the lot split? Lot consolidation, I mean.
Lot consolidation is acceptable.
Okay. Any questions for Rob? I mean, we can always sting, but that. Okay. So it looks like where we're at is to discuss the facade. I mean, at least that's where I'm at.
Would you want to approve the lot split? Or the lot,
Yeah, I would, as chairman, I feel good about granting the,
consolidation?
the consolidation. I don't know how does the committee feel with that? Okay, but we can do them, you want to get through it and then we'll do them one at a time, Joe, or?
Okay, that's fine.
What do you, what's it? Go ahead.
The masonry or brick? I guess that's the big question here.
I was told to present tonight as is. I'm not gonna lie to you. the cost effectiveness of the metal siding is part of the deal. You know, we're dealing with soil issues on the consolidated lot. Someone told me today, and I'm not sure this is true, maybe someone here, I'm sure someone here knows, there used to be a gas station on that site.
Yes.
Okay, that might explain the soil issues. We feel it breaks up the facade and adds visual interest. There's metal siding on other buildings in the area, so I guess as it pertains to the way the zoning code's written, we're asking it be approved as other materials. I mean, whether we consider, I mean, what are we talking, adding 20% more brick, or we're talking the whole office wing? You know, multiple exterior materials are kind of current architectural trend. I mean, you see it in neighborhoods on houses, you know, everybody has at least two sort of claddings. We feel, you know, the brick does draw attention to the entrance.
Well, how does the planning commission feel? I can tell you, you know, I don't like the vertical steel, I don't like the steel siding. I think us moving forward, I know people will point and say some other things. You'll see that maybe took place, like you know, the other part of the building. But I think this fitting here and fitting in with the other building, I'm in agreement. I'd like to see it all brick, to be honest with you. Same as what was recommended by our planning consultant, our engineer, and our street commissioner, zoning inspector. How does, like to hear everybody else's opinion, or?
I have
See
a
it.
comment.
Yeah, go ahead, Jen.
The original building and the signage is very pretty and represents the village well. It's an important area for the village for design. I'm totally not in favor of the vertical metal siding. So I would not agree with that as part of this street. I would like to see it carry through with the brick, if possible. I think it makes a much cleaner look for the village. Like I said, this area is very important to the village.
Well, I kind of have to agree with Joe that the two different textures, two different surfaces break it up and enhance it as far as I'm concerned. I certainly think if everybody wants to see it brick, then just, instead of doing the whole building in brick, maybe just do Alexander and Northfield Road, walls facing that in brick, and leave the rest as the vertical siding, because the whole back half of the building is all vertical siding now as it is. But just solid brick all the way across from one building to the next, you know, it gets a little boring looking as far as I'm concerned.
I'd like to, I don't know, point out that I understand your points, and, you know, a monolithic wall that's, you know, of a warehouse, vertical siding isn't very visually interesting. But we do have quite a bit of, you know, windows and glass and doors that break up the facade.
Any other comments, Ray or Todd?
I'm not offended by the way it looks now. I mean, I'll go along with, you know, the group. But didn't we recently approve vertical siding for the CK, whatever, the NPK edition?
We approved vertical siding for the NPK edition in the backyard of NPK.
Okay, I mean, I know it's not a visual thing, but it matched what they already had.
Plus it matched their 2015 edition, plus they're an I2 instead of mixed use.
Okay,
If you were going to do the two facades, so it would be partially versus partially side. But I think the two facades that face the street are going to be individual. I think the brick there makes a lot of sense. I realize it doesn't make sense to brick a piece across the existing building when you got the connection. No one's going to see that. I have a problem with that. But it seems to me that maybe mix would be more brick, but not.
Ray, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Yeah, I had two comments, and one was related to the brick facade versus the vertical siding, and I also would like to see more of the brick. Which gives a long-term, timeless kind of look for the village versus a facade that, it is what it is. So the two sides, the Alexander and Northfield Road side, I think are the most two important, that's the most reasonable to everyone. And I also would like to see more brick on those sides. The other comment I had was a question, that being that we do not see what the site would look like with the stormwater management piece, we're gonna have to come back at some point anyway with that, add that to it. Not to hold you to it, but any thoughts of where on these drawings, where that might happen?
Oh, the retention?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of ways to do stormwater management.
I have not seen the preliminary civil plans, but I know it's a consideration. I mean, does that have,
There was a secondary, there was just,
Yeah. Does that have to be approved by this planning commission tonight, or can as long as it's submitted and approved with the plan review?
Well, my question is just, what will that, is that an above ground piece?
Oh, no.
Is that-
I honestly know very little about it, and I was hoping for a call all day that I never got.
Okay.
But I have to imagine it would be below ground.
Okay.
Any comments, Joe, on that you would?
Yeah, so I guess the first part of the question, the commission approves tonight, we certainly can review for conformance the stormwater management that they do propose, and I can review that with their civil design engineer. To answer the second part of the question, it's really a decision for their civil designer, but to Todd's point, the likely choice would be underground. They could choose to build a couple of smaller detention ponds where there are landscape grass pockets. The other thing too, keep in mind, is it's a pretty large parcel, especially if it's even bigger after tonight. The stormwater management may not have to actually happen right on the corner. It could be somewhere in the back to catch roots, drains, and what have you. So there's a lot of possibilities. We'll let their designer propose.
Yeah, when I said I can't imagine it not being underground, I guess the more we talk about it, I'm not comfortable saying that. It would seem to me, based on projects we've done in the past, that would be the initial plan, but again, I don't know, and I apologize for my no knowledge of that.
No, it's okay. To get back with me with the facade, okay, so we'll look at that drawing there. We'll look at the second one on the top. Well, the first one to the right here, okay?
This one?
Yeah, so if I look at that building, only a quarter of it is brick. Am I correct on that?
I think that's a reasonable estimate.
Yep, you got one corner that's steel siding, one whole side thing. So they're very little brick. Only a quarter of it's brick. 3/4 of it, steel siding. And then you go and look at the other building, which is all steel siding. I'm just a little confused that we have a quarter of the building brick and the rest of it steel siding, which doesn't meet our, building requirement. That's where I'm at right now. I mean, I understand you like the breakup, but the breakup could also be done with something else that's, whether it's a different colored brick or a different, or thing, but, somebody, I think Janice, you brought up a good point. Everything looks good when it's brand new. That steel siding certainly isn't gonna wear like the brick. You know, it just, and it still comes down to being, steel siding. And then, we're not even looking, you have 75% of it, that, and then you still got the connector, which even adds more.
Very slightly, but yeah, it's metal siding too.
That's metal siding too.
Right. It's a different color. And a
Different color,
texture, but it breaks it up.
and it's not as visible, I
Yeah,
understand
that's
that.
gonna be back in your pocket. But if you look at, you know, what they're doing is they're taking the surfaces from, both surfaces from the existing building and putting some of each on the new building. So it ties it in with the warehouse part in the back, the office part in the front. You know, as Joe mentioned, you know, part of their decision to do it this way is for cost effectiveness. But like I said, you know, if we want to do brick, I would have no problem with just brick in the front on Northfield Road and Alexander, even the west side. That seems to be the theme on the rest of the building. Kind of a compromise somewhere between the two.
I'm not happy with the rest of the building. I
Well,
wasn't
you know,
happy
they
with,
have maintained it very well. I think
Yeah.
since they've been in there, they've painted that building twice, I believe. You know, so it's not like they don't take care of it and keep it up.
I would agree with you
know,
there.
They do a nice job of that.
You know, it's just, it's the gateway. It's the gateway to our community. You know, and I understand, you know, you mentioned the soil. If I'm not mistaken, all that was very disclosed, to you know, Smith and Obie at the time of the purchase. I think we had to provide, or the EPA looked at all that. I don't think that's a big surprise that there was a gas station there. That was all well documented. In fact, Mr. Jordan, tell me if I'm not correct, they had to, didn't they have to provide something that stated that, or Rob or Joe, that the property was clean? Because it had that at one time. I thought I remember something going back and forth that,
So when the applicant indicates that there are soil issues, that can be
It was,
unstable or polluted or something.
I believe, I'm suspecting it's unstable.
Oh, so not
Yeah,
polluted.
no, yeah.
Tom, come on up to the mic.
The city owned the property, and prior to our ownership, there was a no further action letter issued.
Correct,
by
that's
the
what I'm,
state bus
yeah, that's,
agency, and that indicates that the testing had resulted in a condition that did not require any further environmental remediation of the site. But as Ms. Sherman just tells you, it wasn't an environmental issue.
Gotcha.
It's a,
Possibly for the tanks.
yeah, when they dug up the tanks, they tested the site.
I mean, I'll break out, if I had to vote tonight, I'm voting no. I'm not gonna, you know, I mean, it's up to you, how the commit, I mean, if you feel, and I want it to go through, what we don't wanna do is certainly, I certainly don't wanna do that. But I do feel What I don't want to do is, when it's all up, say, I wish you would ask for more. I want everybody to really, really feel comfortable. I mean, even the size of the rendering doesn't even give me a big, good feel. I mean, you get a little, that, but and I agree, the front's nice. I was happy. I like the way the front looks. I like the way the sign looks. I think it adds to the corner, Joe, I really do. If the Smith and Obie leadership was here, I'm not saying that. I just think a little more can be added. I really, really do.
In respect to that, can I ask you this? It sounds like we're talking brick on the intersection side, the two streets. Would you consider breaking that up with, is it all brick or more brick, or, I guess that's what I'm asking. Because and again, my opinion's not worth it, but we rendered it when we thought we might have to present this tonight as all brick. We rendered it as brick. It looked like a big monolith to me.
It's too bad you didn't bring that with you.
Well,
We would have had a comparison.
well, actually, that was the plan up until I was told no.
Right.
Now, that's something I would have really loved to see, a comparison, because I'm not convinced. It's my opinion that the brick would look very nice.
Or I'm talking about wrapping another corner with possibly like bookends with metal siding in between on the prominent elevations. I think, I feel if we have to table it to do that, that might be a consideration, but I can tell you just from the design of my firm is they're not, I don't know, maybe they would. They might do it all brick. I mean, you have my opinion, I told you.
Right. So what you're saying to me, Joe, so let's say money wasn't an issue. You're saying the architects felt that even money being an issue, all brick wasn't aesthetically pleasing to them.
To be quite honest, I'm talking about just inter-office
Yeah.
conversations.
Yeah.
Not, I don't know if those renderings were ever shown to Smith and Obie or not. We rendered it three ways. The way that we're presenting tonight, though we did another rendering where it's essentially what it is tonight, except the metal siding is concrete block. A very light textured concrete block, but you do get a multiple of colors. That would be less expensive than all brick, but it would still be more expensive. And
Was that a split face block like, or was it something?
it was very smooth and it was split face. It was colored or stained. I guess they have stained concrete block now, but
I mean, maybe that's, Tom, did you want to make a comment? Tom is our economic development consultant, so.
And we have a choice here, I guess, is whether or not the planning commission or the applicant wishes to table it. It doesn't seem like there's a consensus on the applicant does not wish to amend their application at this point.
well, by tabling it, I assume that means I come back here next month.
Yes, and decide which one we want to move forward, given the feedback that the planning commission has made.
And if I ask for a vote tonight and I lose, do I have to wait a year or anything, or can I just?
That's the problem, Joe.
That's the problem. Do you wish to make a motion or request to table it?
Well, let me get a consensus. I don't know, maybe I'm the only one, or me and Janice. I want to, go ahead.
Just so we're clear on timing, to resubmit, we may not be able to do
What the,
December.
yeah,
I mean, if you
we would
look at
need a
the
quick
holiday-
turnaround on the drawings.
Yeah. we would need a-
Our next meeting is Joe, is December 1st.
So we're not gonna be able to do that.
Yeah, and that's
It's
the,
already too close.
unless the,
By waiting to next year, you mean 12 months, you don't mean January 2000.
nah,
If
that-
they vote no under the ordinances, they have, unless there's a substantial change.
and that wouldn't be the thing to do. I mean, if Smith, if you're willing to come back and, with some different drawings, the thing would be to ask for a continuance or to table it, and then we set up another meeting and try to, get it worked out, because I know we're gonna get it worked out. That's not, we are encouraged, we want Smith and Obie, we love that Smith and Obie is in our community. We are excited about this expansion. I just want to make all this clear.
We obviously did a tax abatement agreement as well as sold the land to them.
Yes,
So our intention is to see this expansion occur. The fact that we're hung up on an exterior facade issue, which is a substantial one, but obviously, we've been working towards getting this expansion done for over 2.5 years.
So we-
If you're not able to amend your application this evening, and you need to go back and consider it between internally and with your client, my suggestion would be that you request that the planning commission table this. Whether or not it'll be on the December meeting or not.
But it could be okay.
yeah. Where if we,
Well,
if you
needs to
vote
be
on it, then
finalized.
it changes everything, Joe, and that's, we don't want,
I lean towards that decision. I wasn't quite sure how much pushback I was going to get tonight. In reading, we knew there would be some, suspected there'd be some. I read the zoning code today, or other materials as approved by the planning commission. So,
There is, we realize that some interpretation might be that you already need to be in the apartments, but planning commission does have some latitude, and obviously with this issue.
well, yeah, well, that's all right.
no, exactly, and that's what, I mean, but that's, go ahead, Rob.
I just want to, since it is, not simply, but since it's only the exterior finishes, if it were to be tabled, we're ramping up to do it December 1. Since it's only exterior, that's the only, and if the applicant wants to redo the rendering, then yes, we could schedule that.
And if we couldn't, I mean, I'd have to see how the commission feels, maybe the
Planning
commission gets.
commission plans to meet on December 1st.
That's, as of right now, if I have the committee, that's our regular day, we plan on meeting. Yes.
So if we could be in within a week,
It's possible that is, but as you know, the deadline's already passed. But yes, if you could try to get it in, we would consider it.
Or might be second.
We want Smith and Obie to build this building. We want them to do well, we want them to stay in our community. But Joe and I, to the leadership there at thing, we are really, we want to make that Northfield corridor a nice area. And we have that opportunity now to do that, which I think will benefit Smith and Obie too. I think when we're done redeveloping that, well, it won't be done for a long time, but we're working on it, that real estate on that Northfield corridor is going to do nothing but increase. The Ford Innovation Center East that we have on the agenda tonight is a big part of that. We're looking forward to Smith and Obie being a big part of that. improvement. That would be my thing to them is, they're helping,
And the bad
Re-
was,
revitalize Cuyahoga County right here, right here. They're a big part of that, and I know they love being part of the community. I know what they do as mechanical engineers. They're big on supporting Cuyahoga County, the state of Ohio. So I think they will, nobody wants to spend more money, I understand that, but I think they understand our reasoning, and that is to improve the corridor, which will improve their building, the value of their building. The more I look at it, it keeps tying, instead of the corner where the brick is, does a nice job of tying it into their other offices. But for some reason, I keep looking at it and I'm tying most of the building in to the sheet metal shop. I want to look at that and think, when you look at that, you say, wow, that's Smith and Obie's office right there on the corner. In the back is where, but that's a nice office building there. That's, I
does the applicant wish to amend or request a table?
how does, well, hold on one thing, where are we at with the, I from now cannot approve the existing, thing. And even if Joe said, I would like to see it, okay, let's say if Joe said, hey, it's gonna be all brick, I appreciate your comments that maybe all brick isn't the answer. Joe, one of our, members too, and two members, Todd, felt, well, maybe that isn't, they like the breakup. So maybe, I think that's the right thing, what, we're suggesting here is to, table it and come back, and I'm sure we'll find a solution. How does the committee feel?
I think at this point, that's the only really solution, because I think, the people, you and would like to see the other alternatives. We have only one alternative right now, and
I agree.
Janice, you feel?
Oh, absolutely. I'm very open to maybe seeing something I'd be surprised with that I really like. But this isn't it. And the brick right now, I'm thinking is the way to go. But I'm open to other possibilities. So whatever you can have drawn up, be very willing to see them.
Let me ask the committee this, and the other staff. We like the corner, there's no doubt about that. We agree with that. We like the signage and the way the brick corner looks with the, you got some sandstone or whatever. We think that part looks nice. We're just looking at the vertical siding. Is with some.
Yeah, so just so he understands what we're looking for, are we okay with do we want the west side to be brick also?
I'd like to see the whole thing brick and then go from there. That's kind of where I'm at right
Okay,
now.
Even the south face you'd like to see brick?
Mhm.
Okay.
But I'd like to see some other options too. Is that kind of where everybody
the
else?
connector is. That's where it connects to the existing building, is that the south side?
Outside of the existing building.
I thought it was a separate building with just like a hallway.
It is.
It's a connector there. What's the dimension?
It's probably 12 feet wide. I don't really know for sure, but it can't be 20.
Right,
It's a hallway.
right. Now, when that's the south side, I mean, how close are the two buildings together? You're not really gonna see that.
Right.
That's why.
That would-
you're asking?
Yeah, I'm guessing 20 feet.
Right.
So that would be something, we don't need brick.
So it's
I mean,
also not-
correct.
so you could
That-
put some
yeah, and you could hide that even with landscaping, or if the,
You have to basically be on the site. We're not gonna see that. So make sense to require that interior wall between the two buildings. You're not gonna get the visual impact of it.
Yeah.
That's what I was
Fine.
trying to get at.
Mhm.
Well, then we're gonna table this until you
Feels
go
that
back
way.
to Smith and Obie and say, hey, this is what the village wants, what do you want me to do?
I suspect the mayor has more relationships at Smith and Oakey than I do, since I was on a Zoom call for about half an hour today. I don't know if that qualifies as a meeting in this day and age, but
Yeah, we could approve the lot consolidation, Joe, we can have that be a separate, the thing, that is an advantage right now to you, which I feel, is they can look at the Zoom meeting, the owner and the administration there, and by watching it, they can get a feel where we're at with it.
yeah, I would definitely,
Yeah, and,
could be why.
I mean, like Tom said, we're excited about the project, and we really want to see it come through, and the corner really looks nice there. It looks good. Landscape, would we see, Rob and Joe, a detailed landscape, that would, something would,
That's what, one of my comments, we approve that administrative. So, once, I would, for the size of the lot and what's going to be required, as long as they conform to our code.
that's what you would approve?
I can review and approve that. It doesn't have to come back.
Is council good with, not council, is the commission good with that?
Yeah.
Okay, you guys all right. Joe, are you requesting then that we table this to our next,
Yeah,
okay? Do we have to vote on the table, John, is that? Yeah. Can I get a motion to, let's see, to table, let's see, we would table, how would we word it here? Where's my agenda? Got everything, here we go. Motion to, so what address would we go to? Motion to table the building addition, the Smith and Obie building addition? That all we would need? Would somebody like to make that motion?
Mayor, I would like to make a motion that we table the building addition and approval for tonight and revisit it on.
For Smith and Obie,
For
right?
Smith and Obie, yes.
Okay, is there a second?
Second,
Vote on the motion. Joe D'Amico?
yes.
Todd Toaz?
Yes.
Janice St. John?
Yes,
Raymond Whedon?
Yes.
Myself, Mayor Don Colograph. Okay, we table the building addition for Smith and Obie to our next planning commission meeting. We can vote on, would we like to vote on the lot split? Yeah, consolidation. I got them. Who would like to make a motion? I got the addresses here. I don't know if somebody wants to make it. You can use the top one, the two addresses are there, because I think that's important to put those two addresses in there. Can I get a motion for the lot consolidation for Smith and Obie?
Mayor Colograph, members of the commission, I offer motion that planning commission would approve item 022-08-7620 and 7676 Northville Road lot consolidation.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Todd Toaz. Vote on the motion. Joe D'Amico?
Yes,
Todd Toaz?
Yes.
Janice St. John?
yes, but that would include the water retention.
No, that would be part of.
This is something different? Okay. Then yes on the consolidation.
Okay, Janice St. John, yes. Raymond Whedon?
Yes.
Okay, so the lot consolidation granted. And so we're good with that. Joe, I wish we could have.
Me too.
But I think you know where we're at. You're welcome to always call any of us if we can help with anything, or if anybody wants to talk to me or any of us, you know that. So, you know, or if you want to send us some renderings before or whatever to look at too, that's fine.
Mayor,
Yes.
perhaps you might want to bring, you know, your client with you so that they could, you know, so you feel more comfortable agreeing.
Right.
I would probably have them here.
We're good?
We're good, Joe.
Good as we're gonna get?
What's that?
As good as we're gonna get tonight?
Yeah, but I think, you know, just for the administration, I think we did pretty good. We got the lot consolidation. We know where we want to be, and I think we'll see you hopefully December 1st.
All right, great. Thanks for your time tonight.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
you.
Have a good holiday.
You too.
Okay. Everybody ready to move on to the next item? Okay. I'll wait for you to get that stuff straight, Rob, then we'll start. If anybody needs to use the restroom or anything, or. Great, there's a couple waters. I don't know, oh, you got one? Joe, everybody else?
7 o'clock.
Yeah, hopefully that's our regular scheduled date. The first, I think it is. What is it? The first?
Thursday.
Yeah, the first Thursday of the month is our regular.
Okay.
So that's what we do.
I don't know, for the rest of this could take a little while.
Cut just a couple minutes. Rob, you getting ready there? I'll wait for John to come back real quick, and then we'll start. Oh, you know what? I think we can start without him. Well, I'll wait. I'm indecisive. We'll wait. Matt has nothing to do tonight, so. Do you work during the day, Matt? We do have a council member here tonight, two council members, but one's on the board, but I didn't mention your name. Mr. Nielsen is here with us tonight, too. We can't see you, you don't see you in the video.
Strategic move.
Yeah, well, you're under the camera. Okay. Everybody ready? Okay, we're gonna move on in item 6. We'll move on to item B in our planning commission meeting, which is 022-09-7845. That's the Northfield Road split and proposed 247,000 square foot new building, also known as Droft, Forward Innovation East. Matt, would you like to come up and tell us why you're here tonight? Introduce yourself again.
Absolutely.
Been a while with the committee.
Matt Montecalvo with DiGeronimo Companies, one of the 3 partners engaged in the Forward Innovation Center Easton. So thank you very much for being here. We really appreciate the opportunity to get back in front of you and to have some of these items taken care of. in order to avoid some confusion, maybe we talk about the lot split. We've got a lot split of our own, not a consolidation. This one actually is a split. And what this does is effectively, for us, it effectively carves out the area of the site that is relative to the new building, the first new building. And if you don't mind, I thought this was so much cooler before I had it printed, so I can hand it around, and I'm definitely gonna leave it with you. But this is an aerial view of, you can see the new building pad. So we've had our foundation and grading permits. We've been putting in floor slab and foundations and things like that. And so the engineer's drawing that you have is essentially to carve out this section of the site here. So we do this as a mechanism to separate this from the rest of the park, whether that's park roads, park infrastructure, other buildings, that kind of thing. So this is a mechanism for us to effectively separate this on paper for, you know, things like leases and tenants and financing and taxes and things of that nature. So our surveyor has put together a lot split, which I believe you have the legal description as well as the actual lot split itself. And then we also provided, did the commission get this drawing as well? Yeah. Okay. So we also provided a drawing that showed basically what I would call sort of the zoning compliance piece of all this. And we do have one non-compliant property boundary, essentially that northern property boundary, or in this case, I'm sorry, the southern property boundary. I'm looking upside down. The southern property boundary is going to wind up being too close to the entrance drive or the roadway. So I believe the code is 20 feet, George, required, and I think we're 10. So we're eventually going to ask if the planning commission approves the lot split. What we'll do then is appear in front of the BZA, Board of Zoning Appeals, and have them consider a variance for that, so that we can then move this forward and get everything taken care of with the county. That'll be our final step. So that was the only non-conformance that we identified, and we demonstrated that there for you as well. So if there are any questions about it or any thoughts whatsoever, we're here obviously to answer those.
At this time, we'll have, I know you have comments in front of you, of course, from our planner, George Smerigan, our village engineer, Joe Gelati, our street commissioner, and zoning inspector, Mr. Kalman, of course, in front of us. So I'm going to have George kind of go first, and if you want to grab George's letter, we can look at that. I'm not going to read them all on the record. George will summarize it, but they will go into the record for this meeting.
Okay. So what we're really doing here is a lot split for financing purposes. There's no intent to transfer. Eventually, the overall development plan remains the same as it was. It's an overall development plan, but you're creating this artificial property line. But the whole reason for it is simply the financing, so that what they do with building one doesn't have to impact the entire site. It's very, very common in large-scale development to do it this way. The parcel that's being split off is about 18 1/4 acres. It meets all of the code requirements, so the parcel itself is a compliant parcel. Because the building has already started, we know where the building is located on this parcel. The building will be too close to the one line that they are keeping just to the side of the entry road. Okay, it's a side setback variance, but it's essentially a non-consequential side setback variance, because in the long run, it will all be one big site. So it's kind of almost like a temporary situation. What I am recommending is that you grant approval of the lot split plat, subject to the granting of the variance by the BZA. If you do it that way, that means he doesn't have to come back to you if BZA approves it. That saves him a step, moves things along. And if the BZA, for some reason, I don't know what that would be, did not approve it, then your approval would simply become null and void because it was a condition of your approval. Okay? So everything else is compliant. Doing it that way with that stipulation of you're granting it subject to BZA, granting the variance, kind of cleans this piece of it up and lets us move on with that. And then we can talk about the development. Okay?
Okay. Rob, did you want to, any comments with the lot split? Or Joe, that you want to add to George's comments, or do you? Okay.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. In short, I agree with everything George just presented to the commission, and I recommend we go forward and approve the lot split with the one condition that George described. The only other thing I'll add is you might remember from the previous planning commission meeting, there was discussion of creating a future easement to the village for some type of gateway monument sign that the village may want to erect in the future. I think that this is probably a good time to actually show the limits of that easement on this lot split plat. I'm happy to work with the applicant to make sure we get the correct dimensions on there as we move forward to administratively approve the lot split.
Okay. Any, does the committee, any comments related to the lot split for anybody that's here, I guess? Including Matt, any? I'd like I agree with Joe and the idea of finding out what, making sure that we have that easement for the sign in case in the future the village proceeds with that. I think that's really.
You're suggesting that requirement, stipulation on development plan. I think what Joe's simply indicating is that he wants everyone to be aware that the intent to make sure that on the plat, in fact. How they do a separate stipulation, I think the only stipulation we need is if we're approving the subject to the board zoning appeal variance and the side setback variance. Everything else is covered under the site plan. But I think he was just trying to cover.
So, but I know, but even in the motion, we don't want to have some wording like indicating the monument sign easement to the village at the northwest corner?
I think we can handle that.
Okay. Anybody have any comments related to that? Joe?
No.
Well, why don't we do this? Why don't we at least talk about the other part briefly, and then we can always pass this and then go to get back to it. And I think that's what George was referring to. Mr. Montecalvo, you're also here for the 247,000 square foot new building. Is that correct?
Yes.
Or, so what are we asking tonight for that, or as we know?
Yeah, right, so a word on the sign easement, and just since everyone's here, we actually already have a proposed exhibit, and we're working on some proposed language for that to submit to the village, so that you guys can review that. I assume John's gonna wanna review it as well, just from, in the matter of making sure the legal form is correct and all that stuff. So we're open to whatever it is you're asking for, but we thought to kick the process off, we'd just send you something and say, here's our first stab at it, so to speak. So that is absolutely part of the process. I just don't have that back from our legal folks yet, so. Mayor, you're correct. The original intent here was to also seek approval for final site plan approval for the building itself, so that we could submit for a final building permit. as we went through this process, we had quite a few fits and starts, we'll say, with respect to the landscape. I think if you remember from the last time we were here, we wanted very much to provide something that was interesting, visually appealing, and, you know, at the very least, something that was attractive at that corner. And in doing that, to be perfectly candid, we sort of shot ourselves in the foot. We spent too much time focusing on that, not enough time focusing on the other aspects of the landscaping. And we wound up with a plan that unfortunately doesn't meet village code. And that's my fault. I had hoped that we'd be able to sit here today and have that conversation and sort of talk through that and get that final approval. We're not going to be able to do that. So I think in that regard, just from I guess a procedural matter, we would ask to table that decision until we can get the appropriate plans in front of the commission to say, not only is this our vision for the corner, but, oh, and by the way, the rest of the landscape plan actually meets code, which we all would want. So if that's something that I think the rest of the team and the commission can agree to, we would ask to table that with one stipulation. I do have information with me. I've got some renderings of the corner. We did spend some time on that, and I thought this would be an opportunity to get some feedback before we go into that final sort of stage of design where we'd submit our final design. If you're interested, if you would prefer not to because it's late, everyone I'm sure would like to get home, we can do that too, but I do have them, so.
The committee, I'd like to see it. Because besides that, I know one of the things, well, let's look at that first and then we'll go from there. We'll talk about the exterior finishes.
All right. And again, I'm going to leave anything that I show you, I'll leave as I did the last time, so.
Good.
It's such a cool photo.
It is nice to see most of that gone up there, that's for sure.
So these views are primarily so one of the things that we did, which I thought was probably the only good idea that actually came from myself in all of this. The mature trees that are there on the property, most of them have been left. The ones that have been left are healthy, they're large, they're not at the end of their lifespan, they still have many years left. So you'll see these large trees in this rendering. Those are renditions of what's actually there. So those are there, those are going to remain. One of the challenges with landscape is, you know, you see these beautiful things on the plans, and what everybody forgets to tell you is that, well, this is after 10 years of growth. You know, we're not going to plant 8-foot trees, we're going to plant 3-foot trees and watch them grow kind of thing. Well, in this case, you actually see that we have actual trees there. Moving down, you know, this is an addition. There are a couple of trees addition that are kind of tough to see there. But this is a look from the corner. This is if you were standing on the corner on our property on Northfield and Alexander, looking up at the corner of the building. These shrubs are proposed through here. And again, in plan view, you'd be able to see kind of the extent of this, but this is sort of the rendering of the corner. Right. And this one's a step back, almost as if you were sitting in the center of the intersection with the same view. And that is moving up Northfield, so up the hill or south on Northfield. So you kind of get a feel for how the existing trees fit into this and how those were integrated. And the objective is, even as we continue this in some form or another up Northfield Road, the intent is to continue to leave those trees. There's a lot of good reasons for it, but the primary reasons really are that they're intact, they're healthy, and they're essentially full-grown with lots of life left in them, and we don't feel the need to remove them. There are probably some additional trees that are gonna be needed to meet the landscape code. We've got other trees that are gonna get planted, even in addition to the couple that we showed as part of that large massing on the corner. But those are gonna be placed strategically as well. So I think it's an interesting, kind of way to look at it. It's, we talked about it initially with the grade, how interesting that made it and how little of the building you actually saw, and now you kind of get a picture for, now there's even more trees and such. So it is a little bit different, I think, than what we were all sort of anticipating initially.
And the jog in the sidewalk, that's just because of the existing trees there, or what was, always on the plan I see,
The plans actually show it as a straight line. I think what we've done is we've brought it in as kind of a landscape feature also for the landscaping, kind of as a boundary. But again, the actual plan, the engineering plans will rule. The renderings are a little bit tough to pull all that stuff together. There's a lot of layers. But that's a good catch. There is a grade change, George, and that's probably part of it as well. Yeah, we start, that intersection's ostensibly
Right.
flat, and then as you move away south, it immediately kind of pops up. Not very steep, but just a little. So that's what we've got in mind. When the plans come back through, you'll see the plan view and the planting plan that reflects this massing here, and then there'll be others throughout as well.
any
I was
questions,
gonna say, any specific questions?
Rob or Joe? Rob, did you want to add anything to that, or George or Joe?
Looks pretty. Beautiful.
And the other thing too, which you'll notice is when we have shown, did we show a proposed easement in a location in any of the stuff?
It does here in one of the drawings.
Okay.
For the middle.
Okay. So this will be encompassed, or at least a portion of it will be encompassed within the village's sign easement. But I want to make sure that I say it out loud here and you guys hear me. It is not our intention to have anybody other than the owner of the property do the maintenance unless you put a sign there. So just, I don't want anybody thinking that we're also trying to transfer, like, oh, now all of a sudden the village is going to take care of all the plants. No, that's not, we're not going to do that. But other than that, I think that's really.
Does any of the members have any comments related to that?
I have a comment. I think that's really beautiful for that corner. And I'm glad to see the sidewalks still there.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Yeah, that's in all of our plans now going forward. Like we said in our initial meeting, when and how that gets built is a little bit of a, I'm still fighting with Dominion, but that's a little bit of a question, but whether it does or not is not a question. That's absolutely plans.
I have a concern, and I know we talked about it a little bit, Matt. I really think we should, a sidewalk going at least to the entrance on the Alexander side. The more at least I don't know how the commission feels looking at it, it's like, okay, so you park in that, you're parked in that side, or you come out the building in the rear, and how would you get, like the public transportation, which is across, now we're back in that same situation, you're on the grass, where if there was a sidewalk from the corner, at least to drive. You know what I mean? So you'd come walking out of the building, you could walk down Alexander and then go down Northfield.
I think that was on Joe's comment. Right, Joe?
Yeah, that's right.
On the record. Yeah. We probably ought to do it.
Okay,
But it's included in.
that's right. So it is in your so you're aware of it then, Matt? Okay.
Yeah, and we actually had other conversation too with the village engineer about the light there at that entrance on Alexander. And you know, we've done a traffic study that based on, I think it's maybe the first two buildings, but definitely the first building. There's actually, the traffic study would tell you that there's no signal that's warranted there, which I believe there's not a lot of traffic in and out of there. There's a lot of cross traffic. But we've talked about it and we all agreed that leaving the signal there now is more important than having it actuated correctly, and that kind of thing is important from a safety standpoint. So, you know, we definitely understand that. And those are the kinds of things that we want to make sure that we're taking into account.
Okay, so I think we're good until they come back. One thing we did, I know that the commission, which we went back and forth, was no different than Smith and Obie, was the facade. And I know the team, we talked about it, and our planner, George, along with the rest of us, had another way to approach it. Do you want to talk about that, George? At least if we talk about it a little bit, it might, you know, to get it out. Don't you think this would be an appropriate time? Are you good with that? Are you? Okay. And kind of explain where we're at. What do you think, Joe, Rob, Tom?
Yeah, it just as a procedural matter, one of the issues, if you'll recall, that we were struggling with is that the commission wanted a more finalized facade on the building. The applicant was concerned about the fact that they don't have tenants. They don't know how many tenants, so they don't even know how many entrances. And, you know, they don't know what the specific tenants' needs are. So for them to put in a bunch of fancy entrances and a bunch of glazing and then have tenants that don't match that and have to take it off and put on new doesn't make a lot of sense for them. But what I pointed out is the way that our code is structured, you have the authority to do exterior facade approvals. And you have the authority to do that not only for new buildings, but for modifications to existing buildings. Okay? Very clear in this district that you have that authority. And so what we decided was, rather than try to make them guess what it is and have you have to approve something that may just change, but what we can do is we can tie it to the tenant and the tenant improvements. Every tenant that's going to go in these buildings is going to come to Rob. They're going to request interior permits, right, to do their interior finishes. And what we are suggesting is that when they come in for those approvals, those building permit approvals, that we also make them do the facade improvements, and we can tie it directly to them. So if they know they're having a conference room here and they're going to have all this glazing, we'll know that. If they're going to do this grand entrance, we'll know that. If we're going to have 2 tenants instead of 4 tenants, we're going to know that, okay? And so the code, and I quote some code sections in the report that I prepared, and your law director, Ms. Montel, reviewed it and agreed that I had it accurately stated. What we can do is we can tie the final facade approvals to the actual tenanting permits. So when they come in with their interior permit application and they're looking for their C of O, we're going to tie that facade improvement. So you will get that additional bite at the apple. So what we're suggesting you do, and you'll see this in my report, and we'll talk about this when they come back for actual action. We're going to grant a conditional final site plan approval. So instead of we're not going to turn the balloon loose. You're going to grant a conditional final site plan approval. And one of those conditions is that as the tenants come in for the interior improvements, that they're also going to have to come back to you for the facade improvements for each tenant. Okay? And in that way, you've got the final control on exactly what this building looks like based on how it's actually going to be occupied. The other thing that does for us, quite frankly, so let's just look at the parking situation too, because as you know now, we are land banking some of that parking. We're doing that based on the fact that we don't know who the tenants are, and we don't want to overpave the site if we don't have to. As the tenants come back and we know who they are and what kind of, employment level they're going to have, if we need to adjust the parking and have additional parking improved, we can do that at that time as well. So essentially what you're doing is you're giving him we're going to give them final site plan approval, but with a series of conditions. And so they come back to you as they actually get tenants in the building to comply with those conditions. And then there's some other conditions that relate to some other things, such as the mayor brought up about the sidewalk, including that sidewalk because it wasn't included in the plan. A couple of leaving the signal, because what we have, and we wanted to include that because we have a traffic report, from a competent professional that says that the two signals aren't technically warranted based on traffic volume. And they say, take out the Northfield signal. And they say, take out the Alexander signal. Well, we're okay with taking out the Northfield signal, but taking out the Alexander signal, given the fact that we have all that additional traffic from the other side of the street, does not make sense. Would not create a safe situation. So from a safety basis, we're going to ignore that recommendation in the report. And our position is we're going to include a stipulation that says that signal stays until a new signal is warranted, and then that signal gets replaced by the new signal, okay? But we need to do that as a condition of the approval because we have a report that doesn't recommend that. So what I've tried to do in my report is list out all those conditions that we're going to make for this conditional approval so that you're able to, when they come back with the final landscaping, you're able to approve this, but we've tied everything down. We have all that list. We'll make that part of your motion. And you will not have turned loose the balloon in terms of what the final building looks like. But I think that's a way that's reasonable for them, but it keeps the village in control. Okay? So that's how we're going to try to approach that. If you have questions, I can explain it further. I can get into the code provisions. But there's no question in my mind that we have the authority to do it this way. I think it makes it easier.
And I mean, still from a standpoint, the initial building that we're going to approve, we still want that to be pleasing too and look good. We're not changing any of that. We're just saying it gives us an opportunity to make those improvements at the time of and is that based on which occupancy permit? Isn't that another word that would be?
Well, you're going to have the interior finish permit.
Okay.
So in order to occupy, because let's face it, what you've got are blank spaces. In order to occupy the space, somebody's going to come in, they're going to submit a set of plans to Rob, and they're going to be doing their interior finishes. They're going to do their HVAC, they're going to do their interior walls, they're going to, here's where my conference room is, here's where my office is, here's where I want windows, but what we're going to say to them is when you do that, you're also required to address the entrance and the facade treatment on your portion of the building as the tenant, whether it's these guys doing it or the tenant themselves doing it, doesn't matter to us. But we will tie that all together. So we're not forcing someone to do something with the building prior to the time it's ready to be used. We're tying it all together with the use. I think that's the easiest way to do it. That's the most effective way to do it. Otherwise, we're going to be ripping stuff off because we don't know who's going. Make sense?
And keeps us in control, correct, George?
So the goal is to have a uniform look
Well,
to the
you're going to have somewhat of,
entire
well, you're going to
facility.
have the basic facade of the building. So there's some uniformity to the building. But what the problem we have right now is we talked about, you know, at the entrances, you want something special, right? You want to make it clearly be an entrance, you want it to look nice. We talked about, you know, how much windows, where are there gonna be windows, how many windows, what's it gonna look like? What's the repetition of the window system look like? Well, you can't do that if you don't know where the offices is, or where the conference room is. There's no sense in putting windows in something that's gonna be a storage area or a manufacturing area. You want the windows where the offices are. And we don't know that till we get an interior layout. So what we're saying is we'll tie it to that. But yes, we're gonna look at, does it make sense in terms of the whole building? But also, how does that portion of the building, is that acceptable and reasonable for you? And are you okay? But yes, as we go through, we're not gonna have somebody do something that looks, you know, like this, and somebody does something totally different, and the building doesn't look right. That's part of why we wanna control it, because as each tenant comes in, they're gonna wanna do some of their personal things, but then they're also gonna have to do things that make sense for this whole development. Does that make sense to you?
It really does. It makes a lot of sense to me. Just looking at this building, I wasn't in favor of it last time. I'm not in favor. But I think with just a few improvements around the entryway, it can be beautiful.
Yes, it's plain right now, but it's plain for a reason. And the idea is that, you know, when they come back with the tenant improvements, that's when we're going to dress this up and make it look the way it should look finally. But we want to do it one time and not multiple times or have to change it. And this helps them in terms of their planning. But the important thing for me is you're the one still holding the reins. They need to come to you and get those approved. And I think that's what's critical. And, you know, there may be tenants that, you know, we have to hold their feet to the fire a little bit. Not all of them have, you know, the same kind of taste and want to do things at the same quality. We're going to need to we may need to make some people step up. Other people may do things that just, you know, blow you away. We'll find out as they come in. But I think the comfort level for you is you're not giving anything up at this point, but we're allowing this to move to the next.
And who would be coming in front of the planning commission for approval of, say, facade on this building?
Yes. So at the same time that they're coming in, because let's face it, they're spending all this money on architecture and design for the interior space.
Right.
But they're also fixing their facade and their entrance, and they're doing their glazing and all that sort of stuff. When they do all those plans, their architect generates all those plans. They're giving them to Rob, who's going to take them through the plan review process for the interior stuff. At the same time, they're coming to you for the exterior. So they're doing it all at once. So the timing is perfect for them. That's the time they should be doing it. Okay? And so, yes, each of those, Rob will approve the interior, but each of the exterior plans will come to you for approval.
Okay.
And whether that's 1, 2, 3, 4, however many we end up in this building, each of those will come to you as we go along. And we're going to do that for all the buildings going forward. That way you're controlling it from day one.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you for that.
Absolutely.
Anybody have any questions from, I mean, we'll have time to talk, but I just thought it was important because it gives us time also to digest that process that George, our planner, put in front of us there too. Go ahead, Todd.
Well, I was just gonna ask, so the overall building is gonna have some common characteristics, and then each individual, say there's 4 tenants in this building, some tenants might want windows, some tenants might not want windows, or will everyone have to have some amount of windows, or, I mean.
Yeah, I think we're gonna wanna see some level of windows. But you may have some tenants that, because of the way they're designing their space, they may want a ton of them.
Yeah.
And that's what we're gonna be able to accommodate that, because we're gonna be able to adjust as we go, rather than us sitting here picking window spots in a building when nobody knows how it's gonna be used.
But one tenant's not gonna be allowed to have like, you know, purple walls or such, you know.
No, that's, I think that's the point that she was making earlier. there has to be a level of consistency
okay.
through the whole building. So you can identify your space and give it its own character, but the overall facade treatment is gonna be similar.
Okay, great, thanks, great.
Yeah, go
Matt,
ahead.
you received George's memo with his recommendations, and you guys shared it and discussed it, and you're in agreement with it?
We, yes.
Okay, anything else we need to discuss, or should we move forward with the two motions? Anybody have anything for Mr. Montecalvo, or Joe, George, or Rob, or Tom, or any of us? Anybody have any comments they want to make? Okay, well, why don't we start with the, well, we can make a motion to, I can get a motion to, I can give you the, well, you have it on your agenda. Let's see what, no, let me give you something here too. We'll make a motion to, Matt, you're requesting that for the building approval, you're requesting that we table this, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So can I get a motion to table the 7845 Northfield Road proposed 247 square foot new building? To table it?
Yes, I'll make a motion to table the 7845 Northfield Road approval.
Is there a second?
Second?
Second by Janice St. John. Vote on the motion. Joe D'Amico?
Yes.
Todd Toez?
Yes.
Janice St. John?
Yes.
Raymond Whedon?
Yes.
Mayor Don Colograph? Yes. Okay. How about a motion, I get a motion to grant preliminary plot approval pending obtaining the appropriate side yard building setback? Someone like that. Yeah,
I'll make a motion, I'd like to make a motion to grant preliminary plat approval pending obtaining the appropriate side yard setback from the zoning board.
is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Janice St. John. Vote on that motion. Joe D'Amico?
Yes.
Todd Toez?
Yes.
Janice St. John?
Yes.
Raymond Whedon?
Yes.
Tom Colograph, Mayor, yes. Okay. Lot split approved then? Okay. Any other questions or? Okay. Can I have a motion for adjournment?
I make a motion that we adjourn.
Second.
Second by Raymond Whedon. Vote on the motion. Joe D'Amico?
Yes.
Todd Toez?
Yes.
Janice St. John?
Yes.
Raymond Whedon?
Yes.
Okay. The Planning Commission meeting of November 17, 2022, adjourned at 8:35 PM. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, we didn't. Yeah, they didn't.
Jimmy's first?
And then you ask, yeah, let me,
He's making good progress. Yeah, electricians.